Let's bring in Shannon Bream. She's Fox News Sunday anchor, Fox News chief legal correspondent as well. Good morning, Shannon.
Good morning, gang. How are you?
Good. So, as Douglas mentioned, not only do we have, it looks like, indictments when it comes to the Mar-a-Lago case in President Trump and bringing in his property manager, Carlos de Oliveira, but we have the House Oversight Committee bringing in Devin Archer, which does promise in some degree to bring new testimony, new evidence when it comes into the investigation into Hunter Biden.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and all of that is against the backdrop of his plea deal that fell apart this week. And now the judge has given both sides 30 days to brief this thing. So now we're going to have questions. All right, Devin Archer, that's going to be done behind closed doors. Did they release a transcript? How problematic does that become for Hunter? We also have a lot of questions coming out of that plea deal falling apart because the investigators say there's still an ongoing investigation. So what else may be looming for Hunter Biden? We don't know. Is it that, Foreign Agents Act that he didn't register for, allegedly? Maybe there are problems there. There's just a lot we don't know. And that judge had some really pointed questions. So between that, the briefing that's going to come and what we may hear from Devin Archer, we may learn a lot more.
Yeah. So what do you think that the Biden administration, I mean, we're just talking about the campaign trail and everyone, sort of out there on the Republican side trying to meet with voters, and yet Joe Biden going on a 10-day vacation.
Well, and listen, he's the guy. He is the incumbent. He holds the power of the office. He's the commander-in-chief. And, the DNC essentially is saying there aren't going to be debates. We're not going to be having other people challenging him in the primary. So I think he feels like this is a good time to kind of get away from it all. This hasn't been a great week for him or for Hunter. Then Friday, we have the late statement to People magazine about acknowledging Navy as the 7th grandchild. So I think he wants to take a little break, try to put the spotlight on the Republicans, say, look at the infighting there, look what's happening on the Hill, let them talk about impeachment. They think that's bad for Republicans. So, time to take a break.
Shannon, we talked about this yesterday. Justice Samuel Alito, he has broken, I don't want to call it protocol, but the way things have always been, which is that Supreme Court justices don't really respond to the swirling controversies that might be coming around them. I mean, I use controversies actually somewhat lightly. Media coverage. And that's the case when it comes to the justices these days, from Clarence Thomas to Brett Kavanaugh to Justice Alito. There's all these media stories looking into potential ethics violations. And I think it's fair to say it's largely driven by the unpopularity of their recent decisions when it comes to those within the media. But then Alito, he spoke out and he said this: I know this is controversial. This is a controversial view, but I'm willing to say it. No provision in the Constitution gives them the authority to regulate the Supreme Court, period. He's referencing Congress there. And if you look at the Constitution, it is really hard to find a provision that allows for congressional oversight of the Supreme Court once they are affirmed.
Mm-hmm. What they can do is set the number of justices on the bench. And they've done that a few times in the history of our country, but they haven't done it in a long time. And the conversation more recently has been Democrats saying, trying to pack the court, change the numbers, because then we can change the outcomes. They're rogue, they're out of control. And the other way that they have these conversations is that Congress does include and control funding for the judiciary. So in recent years, we've seen them say, we want cameras in the courtroom. We want to haul them in here and have them talk about that, because if we don't get cameras in the courtroom, maybe we don't give them their full funding. I mean, there are conversations that happen like that. And you guys remember the Senate Judiciary Committee tried to call on the Chief Justice to go up there and visit with them and talk about these alleged ethical issues. The Chief Justice sent a nice, lengthy letter that said basically, no thanks, I'm not going to be doing that. And plus, here are all the things we adhere to. And all 9 justices, regardless of who appointed them, signed on to that letter. So there is pushback. I think Justice Alito is the one who's saying it publicly. I think privately there are some others who feel the same way. We're an independent branch. We do our thing. You do your thing.
And Shannon, can I ask, we've discussed this a bit in the studio, but everyone's used to the incredible furore after there's any appointment hearing for the Supreme Court, any nomination. But can you think of a time when there's been so much focus on the individual members of the court and so many personal attacks, sometimes leading to attacks that could be very physical?
Yeah, and I think the thing that's been so frustrating, and probably why you're hearing from Justice Alito, is that there are still demonstrations that happen at many of the justices' houses. That has not stopped. Remember, that started over a year ago when Dobbs was leaked. There were threats. You talk about Justice Kavanaugh, a man accused of considering murdering him, attempted murder. So there are very serious things that have happened. I think it's frayed on all the nerves of these justices. They didn't get to the name of the leaker. That's a huge frustration. It's frustrating for the conservatives to hear, Democrats out there saying we're going to pack the court, we're going to take over this, we're going to do that, we're going to find a way for the public to be able to file ethics charges against you. All of that's part of the legislation being proposed on the Hill. So a lot of frustrations. And I think Justice Alito is just one of the few who's willing to publicly say what maybe some of the others are thinking.
Wow, that really provides a lot of context to his comment. I had no idea that those kind of protests were still happening at some of their homes. It's fascinating. Oh, wait, well, you have a big show coming up today, so tell us who you have and what you're going to be discussing.
So Alina Habba, who is an attorney, she's part of the Trump legal team. She's not handling these cases, the latest indictments, but she's going to come talk to us about how the team is handling them. We've got our legal panel to dig into, plus Congresswoman Nancy Mace. She's been in the headlines a lot this week for a lot of things. We're going to touch on a number of subjects with her. And we've got the newest person to qualify for the debate stage, North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum. He's a super interesting guy, so we're going to try to get to know him a little bit better.
All right.
Sounds good. Thanks, Shannon.
See you guys.
Shannon.
Thank you.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.